Hi everyone, I'm Steve Stoller.
And I'm Shannah Haley, and this is Inside Plano, where we take you behind the scenes of our city.
We'll introduce you to the faces and places who help make this a great place to live.
And give us lots of reasons to love Plano.
Happy October, Steve Stoller.
Yes, fall has arrived and Halloween is this month. How exciting.
It is exciting. And you know what? When you say fall, it really does feel like fall. And that is very exciting to me.
Yeah, I don't miss those triple-digit temperatures. I know you don't either.
No, and you know what? We actually didn't have all that many. I don't remember the number right offhand, but it was like 7 or 8 for the whole summer.
Yeah.
So I think, for all of the crazy, terrible things that have happened in 2020, the fact that we had lower than normal 100-degree days was a big blessing.
Yes, one positive thing to appreciate.
Well, hey, speaking of that, I feel like this podcast has become the COVID podcast. We can't let an episode go by without talking about COVID, and it's probably appropriate to do that because there was a big change last month in how we communicate about COVID. So maybe we should start out the podcast by just actually talking about what did we change and why.
Well, we were putting out a daily media advisory every morning, and I was tracking the numbers for Plano and Collin County. And then we would take the information from that media advisory, and you and your team would push that out on our social media channels. So we did it for about 149 days. And
about
most of those
149?
days, yeah, roughly. I counted and I lost track, I think, right around there. So, we were doing it every day. We were doing it 7 days a week, whether it was a Saturday, Sunday, a holiday. And, we made the commitment from the beginning that we were going to provide good information and distribute that information not only to the community, but also to Team Plano, to all the employees that work for the city. And, it always amazed me, Shannah, how people were really following those numbers. A lot of people had their own spreadsheets and they were tracking numbers themselves. Well, early on in the pandemic, we also started a website on our webpage that was a dashboard that also had all the county numbers, all the Plano numbers, and then links to the other entities' websites and dashboards, including the state of Texas, Denton County, of course, Park Plano's in Denton County, Collin County, UTD has a very good dashboard where they track some of the testing results. They tell you percentages of positives of all the people who have been tested. So we really had 2 different platforms of where people could get their information from. So what happened was, if you remember, on June 1st, the Collin County Commissioners decided to turn their case reporting and contact tracing over to the state of Texas. It's the Department of State Health Services. So up until that time, the first 3 months of the pandemic, the numbers were pretty good. The numbers came in and everything was very smooth. Sometimes they would be maybe 2 off, 3 off, and I would always compare those with a daily spreadsheet that came out with all the individual cases. And 9 out of 10 times, we found those missing cases or cases that had been added that weren't there the previous day. Sometimes, it was somebody who may have been in the hospital or been tested in Plano, but they're actually from another city or another county. So those cases were transferred out. Sometimes a case may have been reported twice. They would eliminate the duplicate case, but it was always very, very close. Well, when the state took over on June 1st, and I don't really know why it happened. I think they may have been overwhelmed because the state was doing reporting for counties all across Texas. But something changed when the state took over the numbers. All of a sudden, the numbers were not matching up. And really, there's a simple formula. If you take active cases, recovered cases, and deaths, and you add those 3 together, you should get the number of the total positive cases. When the county was doing it, that's what I did every day. And it was always right on or just a few off. Like I said, we figure it out. Well, when the state took over, all of a sudden the numbers never matched, And then we heard, after them doing the reporting in the state for more than a month, we heard that for some reason, there were thousands of cases across the state that did not get reported into their dashboard. So they had to reconcile all those cases. And then the county was informed later on, just a few weeks ago, that they were only counting the cases from June 1st forward, which meant they were missing 3 months of cases. And then there's some other little things that the state does currently that the county didn't. For example, deaths. Deaths are not included in total positive cases. And then active cases are considered differently. So it was very confusing. And at that point, we just decided, we already have this information available to our community. We thought, let's just direct people to the one site where they can get all the information that's all there. And that is the website that has our dashboard, because really we're duplicating a service. So, some people understood and a lot of people didn't. Some people felt like they didn't understand that these were not our numbers. We're just providing a service. The state reports the numbers. They give them to the counties. Collin County, then as a courtesy, provided those numbers to us. And then we got specific numbers also for the cities in Collin County. Well, they stopped reporting certain data involving the cities. So again, it just got really confusing. And I know the commissioners felt like they lost trust in the numbers. They actually put a disclaimer on their dashboard, at first saying they had no confidence in the numbers. Then they softened it up a little bit, and now I believe it's limited confidence in the numbers. But we just thought, you know what, instead of getting involved in this debate over the numbers, let's just direct people to our website. It's all there for the taking. The same information we reported is available there. So that's what we did. We pivoted in that we're just directing people to a service we've already had for several months, and we're not duplicating ourselves. So it's not that we're not reporting, we're just reporting in one place, which to us made a lot of sense.
Yeah, and the nice thing about the dashboard is those numbers do flow in directly from the state. I mean, it goes through the county, and the county dashboard is there. So it's really a very direct information push. As it's updated on the state, it's updated on our side once a day. And the other thing that's helpful, I know that it feels like this year has been frozen in time. I know for me, it was a huge emotional shock in some ways when school zones started operating again, because kids were back in school in September, because it feels like, okay, spring break is over. We've been on a 6-month spring break because that was the last time that they were really there and the school zones were operational. But the truth is, things are starting to return to, it's not the same, but there are things that are starting to return. You see more traffic out and about. People are doing, a higher level of errands carefully, wearing their personal protection, wearing masks, all of those things. And the same is true for our staff. You mentioned several times that this was a duplication of service, and we were happy to do that initially because it was very important to have information. Now, the information is still there, but the needs and demands on the time of the staff that works in communications has increased because of other duties, those duties that are returning as life is returning in a new, different format. So it was increasingly difficult for them to juggle all of the responsibilities in the time allotment. So it didn't make a lot of sense to continue trying to do something that we were already doing and that was happening on an automated way. So, our challenge is making sure that people remember that the numbers are still available and reminding people of where it's located. Since we're not pushing it to you, you can go and see it. So we need to still communicate that out. But it's there, and it does allow us to focus on some of the other things that are happening and coming back and returning to help us all feel a little more normal in a different way. And so today, Steve and I, last month in the podcast, we had a great time talking about all of these new activities that were coming, and it somewhat felt like the old days, I felt like maybe we should sing Auld Lang Syne, it was a new year in September. And the same is true this month. So we thought maybe it would be interesting to talk about maybe not activities per se, but some of the services that have returned and things that you can participate in, because it really is, it's exciting. And it's exciting because the city has taken a lot of time to make sure that it's doing things right. Putting all kinds of health and safety protocols in place to make sure that we can protect our staff from getting ill, to make sure for sure that we can protect patrons from getting ill. You know, public health is very important to us, and the city's done a lot of hard work and taken its time. And so new things to talk about, right, Steve?
That's right. So why don't we start with the library, Shannah? What's going on with the public library?
Yes, and so I'm going to look at my notes because I don't want to forget, because there's actually quite a few things. So one thing that started in September, huge demand for this for months, and we finally felt like we were at a point where we could do this safely. We have opened the libraries in a limited way. So they're all by appointment, but you can actually go in. So for a while, you've been able to go in by appointment and use the computers, because we know not everybody has internet at home or computer at home. So you can make an appointment and access the computer for 2 hours at a time. But here's the other really fun thing that's available. Grab and go and browse actually in the library is something that you can do. You can make an appointment, go in for an hour. It's not just going in to pick up stuff that you already looked at online. You can actually go in and look at materials on the shelves, which is nice, because sometimes that's the best way to discover that next new read or play and go kit for your kids. So that's available. You can make copies and fax. You can do self-checkout. You know, that's the way you're going to get materials. And you can shop the libraries, Friends of the Library lobby sales again. All of that by appointment. You can go online to get that information. Of course, we're still continuing porch pickups. So if you want to check out a book and just have it as a pickup from the porch, you can do that. There are book bundles, so you can get more material all at once, and that's in multiple languages. The book drops are open. You can still book a librarian to help you with things over the phone. So really exciting things. I was so surprised to see the feedback. People really have missed our Plano Public Library, and I was one of them too. I found a lot of great things online, but it's going to be great to go in and actually look for things.
Absolutely. There's also a lot of things that are coming back for our Parks and Recreation Department. A lot of people are going to be very happy about this. Fall classes are back, and they will begin on October 5th. Registration for those classes opened in September. The in-person classes are limited right now, but we hope to gradually resume additional in-person programming as the conditions allow. Check that your email address is correct on your Recreation Online account for email updates. We also post updates on the web and social media. And you can visit Plano Parks, plural, planoparks.org for details and the online recreation catalog. So a lot going on.
Yeah, it's very exciting. And of course, those classes will look a little different, but you know, they'll be a lot of fun. I mean, what kid hasn't wanted to get back and do aerobats and tap class and all of those things? So all the things that we've missed. You know, Zoom is great, Steve. I like seeing you this way, but I really would rather see you in person. So I know that we're not the only ones wanting that connection again. So speaking of some changes, during this time, our neighborhood services office is actually relocated. So they were located over in Central Plano near Davis Library. That's actually called the Joint Use Facility. And so there's a court outpost, I guess you call it. So there's a secondary court facility there, and there was a police substation there, and neighborhood services was located there. Well, we've moved them back to downtown Plano. They're actually not in Municipal Center. They're in a building at 777 15th Street. So it's on the west side of downtown, as if you're going back towards 75 from the heart of old downtown. We'll put all of this information in the show notes. You don't have to like be jotting these numbers down or these websites. Just look at your show notes. But it's great because Neighborhood Services does a lot of community meetings. I know we're not doing those right now because of COVID, but that will come back at some point. So they do a lot of trainings, a lot of classes. They do a lot of community services. They do a lot of work with our homeless population in coordination with, Plano Fire Rescue and Plano Police Department. So it makes a lot of sense for them to be in downtown. It's easier to access them. So new office, new location, more space for the community to meet community rooms and whatnot there. So that'll be great once we finally open it up to the public to join.
And this is really important if you're new to Plano. And really a lot of people are moving out and in to Plano. So we're constantly getting new residents. We provide a service. It's a checklist. It's called the New Resident Checklist. And if you're new to Plano, you're definitely going to want to check this out. There's helpful reminders, there's things to sign up for, and really important contact information that you'll want to put into your phone. You can find the link, which will be a downloadable PDF in the show notes. As you know, every month on our Inside Plano podcast, we interview people that we work with in the city of Plano. And today our special guest is Sherrian Jones, who's the Operations and Marketing Manager for Texas Pure Products. Sherrian, thank you so much for joining us.
It is my pleasure. Anytime I'm learning with you all, it's wonderful.
Well, thank you. I'm sorry to cut you off there. So when we start these interviews, what we usually do is we ask the person to tell us something about themselves that most people don't know. We had one director who was a referee. We had a communicator that is a beekeeper. So Sherrian, what is it about you that most people that you work with like us don't know?
Well, and this won't sound very much like a master gardener that I am, but I do not like working in the baking Texas sun at all. You get so, it's just really difficult. And you're drenched in no time at all. So what I always do is I put that bed in right the first time. And I put in 6 inches of compost, like in a new bed. And then I plant my plants, I add my fertilizer, if I have an organic fertilizer, and mulch it. I'm done. Then all I have to do is walk out in the yard, I water my garden, I look for any kind of pests, and it's good to go for the season.
Well, I'm sure Shannah and I can relate. Just because you're a master gardener doesn't necessarily mean that you like working in the hot sun. That doesn't mean you don't enjoy your craft though, right?
Oh, I love my craft and I love gardening. It's just that when it gets hot in Texas, and that's usually July, August, and September, but this year we've had a fantastic September. So anyway, I have found a way, and I'm happy to share that with anyone, how you can garden and not have to be out there so much during the heat, but still have a beautiful garden.
Well, Sherrian, we're just getting into fall, which happens to be a great time to do some serious work in your yard. So with that in mind, we thought we'd talk about something that a lot of people may not know about, and that's Texas Pure Products. Can you tell us what is Texas Pure?
Texas Pure Products is the best organic soil amendment that you can buy anywhere. It is so good. We're OMRI listed, which means that our compost is approved for use in the USDA Organics program. And we got Composter of the Year for our work in 2018, just creating a good product, something that's organic, that really is truly a benefit to the garden. So we make several different types of blends for whatever type of gardening you may be wanting to do. And also, if you want to blend a couple different products, like for example, we have our excellent compost, which is always the base for gardening. But you can also add to that, and I have a whole neighborhood that does this. They'll mix it half and half with Powerful Potting Mix, which has expanded shale, earthworm castings, and compost. So we're happy to do any of that, and we work closely with our residents. Customer service is #1 with us, and right behind that, our quality, because we want to take care of our customers and so they may all have a beautiful and wonderful garden and enjoy that, because it's so good for you in so many ways.
You mentioned compost, you mentioned potting mix. What are some of the other products that you offer?
Yes. Well, we create a planting mix, and it's half compost and then half local soils. And we designed that for raised bed gardenings, because a lot of gardeners are not that interested in digging in the clay. So we created something that they could fill their raised beds with, and it's ready to go. All you need to do is to pop in your plants, add an organic fertilizer like corn gluten meal, which is really good. It's totally organic, 9% nitrogen and nothing else. This is because the compost has everything else you'll need in there, and that's great for that. Another product we create, and that just about all the member cities use on their ball fields and other cities in our areas, is called Turf Blend. And it is half Compost Ultra, which is the finest screened grade of compost that can be bought, and half sand. And when you put that on a ball field or you put it on your lawn, it adds a plethora of nutrients it needs to grow, increases its water holding capacity. And then the sand helps to level out any little divots or hollows that occur just naturally in a lawn over time. So that's a really good product. Compost Ultra, also, if you don't need to level the lawn, your lawn's already level, it just needs to have some nutrition, it needs to look better. And just use the Compost Ultra straight. It's perfect. It is a 1/4 inch screen compost, the finest you can purchase, and it goes down so easily. You just, when you order it, I just shovel it into a wheelbarrow, wheel it around, make little piles, and then use the back of a garden rake to spread it out. It'll disappear right down into the grass blades. In just a couple of weeks, you'll see a huge difference in your lawn.
I'm taking notes here because I could use some help.
Yeah,
of course, Plano,
love it.
the city of Plano, of course, is involved with Texas Pure. What other cities are involved?
There are 5 member cities, and it's City of Plano, City of McKinney, City of Richardson, City of Frisco, and City of Allen. And they all are very supportive of the program. You know, and the program is owned and operated by the City of Plano. And it does they do a fantastic job of bringing us all of their yard trimming. So everything that we create at Texas Pure is locally sourced, and it's recycled materials that make a huge difference just to our environment. So the fact that the cities were visionary and creating a program like this is worth so much, because they did have the vision, they did have the concern to want to recycle that material and to turn it into something that's useful. And in Texas, if you want a garden, we've got to amend that clay and rock that we've got in the soil. So those member cities are a good supportive part of it, and we all work together. It's an awesome team effort.
You talk about some of the benefits to local residents. What are some of the other benefits of these products?
Well, like for example, we have another product that's called a lightweight blend, and it's also a succulent blend. Though the products that we create provide nutrition and water holding capacity, which prevents runoff to whatever you're planting, whether it's a lawn or it's vegetables or it's landscape plants, that they can't get from fertilizers. Commercial fertilizers are basically just the 3 main ingredients: nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus. They don't provide any of those other micronutrients that are necessary for plants to grow and do well and be healthy. And we need those nutrients as well ourselves for us to have a healthy diet and to develop well ourselves. So our products are different that way. The lightweight blend that I was speaking about allows people to put in a rooftop garden if they want to. And it's lightweight, so you're able to put it on top of a roof. Or we had one customer and they had backyard chickens, and they put that on top of their little chicken barn because it kept it cooler. And then they were able to grow herbs and things which they would trim and throw down for the hens to eat. So we have many products that help them. And the succulent blend, succulents are really popular right now. Having those plants in your home, it increases your air quality. They're beautiful. So there's so many benefits to gardening, and we can address whichever venue you might want to do, but it's wonderful and it's great organic product.
One thing we've noticed since the pandemic began earlier this year is a lot of people are doing home improvement, and there's a renewed interest in gardening. So from everything I'm hearing from you today, soil, dirt really does matter and makes a difference in your gardening.
Yes. And you know what? Compost is the most important thing you can add to any planting bed. It is nature's recipe for success in growing, and the earth has been doing this for millions of years. But by having this great compost and mixing it into the soil, it turns dirt into soil. So you can grow whatever you want. You'll grow it successfully with a minimum of intervention, because you're giving the plants the ability to have a good disease-resistant system, and they will do very well. And yes, it is the perfect thing. It's just what you need to grow anything you're putting in. Trees, vegetables, landscape plants, flowers. It is the cure. And it seems too simple because, you know, there are millions of dollars spent on marketing for various types of products to add your soil, but without the compost and that base to build it, you won't get the results that you want from it. You want to get the complete package. Just add some compost. If there's landscape beds, be sure you're adding some mulch, and you've got the perfect recipe. And select plants.
You mentioned mulch. When do you use mulch as opposed to using compost?
Well, it's a 1-2 punch. You start off using the compost to establish your plantings. And when you're done with that, you put your plants in. That provides the growing medium. After that, you want to water it in well and then put mulch on top of it, because mulch protects those plants' roots from temperature extremes, whether it's hot, whether it's cold, and it prevents evaporation and loss of moisture from the soil. And in Texas, we have a thing known as the shrink swell phenomenon. And that means because it's clay, when it gets dry, it shrinks away from your house and it dries up. It has huge cracks that come in it, and your plants tend to die. Mulch, first of all, compost adds that water holding capacity, so that doesn't happen. And the mulch prevents the soil from losing that through evaporation, so that you're developing a nice, stable environment for whatever you're putting in. And it's also good for your foundation, or any kind of, like if you're putting in water features, or you're building a little barn next to the house, or whatever you happen to be doing. Those two things help stabilize the condition of our soils. And the earth would do that naturally, but it takes about 10,000 years to naturally create that environment, which we can do with just a little time in the garden. And as you said, this is the perfect time to do it. It's cooler. You can use compost and mulch any time of the year. It is not a seasonal thing. But luckily we had so many wonderful residents this year to put in Victory Gardens, because they had the opportunity to work from home and to actually focus on growing some healthy, wonderful vegetables. And we've gotten so many compliments and pictures that people have shared with us of their gardens. So it's a wonderful thing to do. It's really good for you to get out there and dig in the dirt a little bit.
Now, what if you live in an apartment and you only have a very small space for a garden? Can you still use the Texas Pure products?
Yes, you can. And it's so nice to come home at the end of the day, walk out on your balcony or your patio, and you've got green living things. They're blooming. So it is not hard. You can use any of the mixes we have. You can use a powerful potting mix. You can use the planting mix. Or if you've already got a pot that's filled, but you just want to rejuvenate that pot, get a bag of the powerful potting mix and mix in there and plant your plants. Water it. Treat those pots just as you would the soil. In other words, mix in your compost, your planting mix, water it well, top it off with mulch, and check on it every day. Because during the heat of Texas, and just by the nature of clay pots, they lose moisture rapidly. So chances are you'll need to add some water a little bit every day. Just check on it. Don't overwater it, but add enough to keep it moist, and you can tell by looking at your plants. They're vital and growing, they're producing tomatoes, they're producing flowers, so that you know that it's the way it needs to be. And you can always call us too, anytime you have questions. You know, we have 3 master gardeners on our staff, so needless to say, we do love gardening.
That's wonderful. And finally, where can people purchase Texas Pure products?
There are several places you can purchase, and we can also deliver to you if you decide that you want to do that. If you're need 3 yards or more, we can deliver to any of the member cities. Then the delivery is only $50, but you can get up to 10 yards in a load. But you can also go by Elliott's Hardware. Elliott's in Plano and Elliott's in Fairview carry our products. And then there are several of the Walmart stores that do as well. Just go to the gardening center. One of the most visited garden centers at Walmart is the Walmart that's at Forest and Hardin Road. So they have a good selection of all of our products. And then our Custer Road facility, which is at 9901 Custer Road in Plano, it's right on the corner of Custer and Ridgeview. You can always come in there and pick up bulk or bagged products as you need them.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Sherrian. We really appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Sherrian Jones, Operations and Marketing Manager for Texas Pure Products. Thank you very much.
It was my pleasure, and thank you so much for having me. Happy gardening.
Thank you.
Well, I thought that interview with Sherrian was especially timely, Steve, because I am getting ready for the first time ever to be brave and do the landscape in my own backyard. I've always been a person that knows what I like to have done, but I like to have other people do it because I don't like to make mistakes. But I'm going to be brave, and so that was a lot of good information. I was taking notes.
And I'm going to watch what you do very closely because I'm not very good with gardening and growing things. I wouldn't say I had a green thumb. So I'm going to watch you very closely, and hopefully I can learn a lot from what you do.
Well, here's what I'll do. I'll invite you over for a socially distanced break in the backyard barbecue experience once we get done.
Oh, I thought you were going to say a compost installation session.
Well, that may be part of it.
Barbecue sounds a lot better.
Exactly. All right. So one more thing. What's going on in Plano?
Well, you know, we do a City of Plano insert in the Plano edition of Community Impact newspaper almost every month. And you got to check out October's edition, because what we did is we put in a huge 2-page map with the infrastructure, that's hard to say, infrastructure projects.
Also, one of your least favorite words. You don't like
that. That is true. That's very true. But you definitely want to pay attention to this, because all of the 28 projects that are highlighted in this map are really ones that may disrupt your movements as you drive across Plano. Just to mention a few of them, there's 4 different pavement rehab projects. We've got improvements at 16 intersections. There's the pedestrian crossing over at the Dallas North Tollway and Legacy Drive. And you know, the map will show you a lot of construction projects, and some are just maintenance, you know, just keeping the roads up to speed, while others are complete redos of different sections of road. And we know that this is going to be disruptive, but you got to look at the long-term bottom line, the light at the end of the tunnel. Anytime we do these projects, as disruptive as they may be, the bottom line is you're going to have better roads in Plano, and it's going to be easier to get around as a result of all this work that's being done. And I'll tell you, I don't want to name other cities, but I've been to other cities driving around, and sometimes I'm amazed at how bad some of the roads are, the condition of the roads. We really pay a lot of time and attention to keeping our roads safe and, you know, passable. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a really important thing.
Yeah, I agree. It can be difficult because you do spend a lot of time in your own city, and then you forget because you're seeing construction and you think, oh my gosh, you know, this is terrible and the roads need to be worked on. And then when you do go elsewhere, you realize, hey, wait a second, our roads are actually in really good shape. And the thing that can be frustrating with those rehab projects is that you feel like, oh my gosh, those roads are constantly being worked on. But if you go where it's not, it's a lot more expensive and it's a lot more disruptive to have roads that are not constantly being maintained, because it's very expensive. At that point, you have to rebuild a road. You can't just put down a tar patch to fix a pothole. So, I live in a neighborhood that's been a major construction project. As I turn out of my neighborhood, it's one of those roads that's on the map, that's getting major rehab. And so it feels very frustrating, but I keep thinking, man, then they're going to be out of the neighborhood and we're going to have these great roads for the next, 10 to 15 years. And so how fortunate am I to have made it through 2 years, which in the long run is not that long, for the quality that you're getting.
It's a headache, but the headache is temporary.
That's right. That's right. So you mentioned at the top of the podcast that this is October and October is Halloween. We are definitely known as a Halloween city. But didn't we receive an award or notation?
Yeah, I can't remember which, there's so many lists that come out. I can't remember which one it was. But a few years ago, we were named one of the top 10 cities in the country to celebrate Halloween.
Absolutely. And now, come on, it's still COVID. You still got to be smart. And so we're not going to, the city, by the way, people of Plano, we have never scheduled Halloween. Halloween happens regardless of whether Plano puts it on the calendar or not. And we don't have regulations about Halloween moving forward or Halloween not moving forward. But what we do want to tell you are some important things. First of all, you have to make smart decisions. We've said that from day one, haven't we, Steve? Make smart decisions. You are responsible to a large extent for your health. So, washing your hands, protecting your health. And we're also responsible for the health of the people who live around us. So whatever you choose to do, make sure that you're doing it wisely, and keep in mind that the city is following the guidelines that are provided to us from the state. And those change relatively frequently. So, as you all know, we record this podcast a little in advance. So, I hesitate to give it too much of that guidance because it can change by the time that the podcast airs. But let's say, for most of this summer, the state of Texas, the governor's office has said, we want you to wear a facial covering when you can't social distance, and that facial covering needs to cover your nose all the way, over your mouth. So what better time than Halloween to wear a mask? It's a good time to do that. You want to make sure that you don't touch your face. You want to be careful. There are ways that you can still enjoy the Halloween holiday, that you can still spend time with your neighbors. We encourage you to think creatively and be smart. And remember that there are also guidelines on how large gatherings should be. All of that information, we keep the latest version on our website, plano.gov/COVID-19. Again, those numbers change as the health advice from authorities above us, who serve as the health authority and as our legal authorities, provide to us. So we provide links to what that latest guidance is. So we want you to be smart. We want you to have fun. Is Halloween canceled? No, it is not. But think about the smartest way to be safe and to be smart as you celebrate with those that you love, because we love you in Plano and we want you to stay healthy. Is there anything else you would tell people about Halloween? Are you guys staying home?
I think we'll probably stay home. Yeah, there's a really good suggestion that someone made about maybe putting a bowl of candy out, and then maybe leaving some hand sanitizer next to it so that people can take from the bowl. And, hopefully if there's kids out trick-or-treating with their parents, hopefully they'll have the face coverings, they'll practice the social distancing. And this is one way where the kids can still get the candy without having any interaction with people in the homes, which is another safety precaution. Probably a really good suggestion.
Yeah, I think we are going to have our light on and have treats, and we do two different kinds. We participate in the Teal Pumpkin Project, which means that we know that there are kids who have food allergies, so we provide alternative non-food treats for those folks. But my husband loves to give out the candy. It's a big deal for him. He loved getting candy as a kid. So this year, you know what we're going to do? We are not going to give a variety of candies. We're giving one, because that's a big source of the digging through the bowl, is to find your favorite candy. So there's one choice. And we'll probably put those in smaller, they might even be grab and go bags. That way, you get your own bag and you can just drop it in, along with hand sanitizer. And I think we're probably going to put our camp chairs in, out on the porch, so we can wave and we won't have to make the kiddos feel like they have to walk up and ring the doorbell. And that way we can still celebrate, but we can do it in a way that keeps those kids safe and allows us to really enjoy the creative costumes in our neighborhood, because we have a lot of kids. Like you said, a lot of people are moving, and we've had a lot of young families move in. It's a great time to be in our neighborhood in Plano.
Wonderful. Well, happy Halloween.
Well, happy Halloween to you all, and happy Halloween, Plano. Stay safe, stay smart. Remember, you can look cute wearing a mask, and you can have a good time loving your neighbor and supporting our small businesses. We'll talk about that more next month for sure on the podcast. If you have any other things that you would like us to cover in our podcast, Inside Plano, please give us feedback through askplano@plano.gov. And as always, we appreciate a review. It helps other people find our podcast, and more of you are listening to us every month, and we appreciate it. Thank you so much. Stay safe. See you next month.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And that's it for our Inside Plano. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did doing it.
If you have any comments or suggestions, send them to us at askplano@plano.gov. Bye.
Talk to you next month. The Inside Plano podcast is brought to you by the City of Plano.